When I started out, it was simpler. It was a simpler industry. You did, as we spoke about a moment ago, big brand work. You did a lot of TV and radio and outdoor, and you weren't connected 24 hours a day via your mobile and email, and you did your work and you went home, and it was the sort of heady days of advertising as well. It was exciting and it was very social. It was a young people's game, and it was great.
Hey guys, welcome to the Convo Couch. Today we've got Simon Hadfield, leadership consultant. Thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Sam. Lovely to meet you.
Obviously it's changed over the years and now there's social media. How do you feel like this affects marketing as an industry?
It opens up the opportunity for marketers to be more precise around their targeting, and actually it becomes more important to provide content, Sam, that is engaging and relevant to that individual. So if a brand does it well, I think they have greater stickiness and greater engagement with their target audience. But you've also got to do it well. So if you don't, then it can actually push your target audience further away. So I think it's great. I think it can be targeted, and I think it's got to be entertaining and engaging. So I think it's a great medium.
Do you think there's a difference in terms of how traditional advertising would work compared to how social media advertising would work?
Well, traditional is kind of, spray and pray. You sort of go as wide as you can and hope that you hit, your target audience. Whereas with social, now you're able to really pinpoint exactly who you want to hit and how you want to hit them. So your bang for buck, the money that you spend, should be have a better ROI.
Okay, so back in the day, you've got 28 years of experience in marketing and communications now. So back in the day, was it easy in terms of measuring the return from marketing compared to now?
Not compared to now, no.
Okay.
No, it was, look, if we talk about those days, it was radio, press, outdoor, and TV. And you would often do a better brand job, so you were able to build a brand slowly over a long time. I think what tends to happen now is you're able to, via performance marketing and programmatic, be able to hit your target audience quickly and sharply, and get a better click-through rate or immediate cost per acquisition, or CPA. But it's short, sharp bursts. So I think you've got to, at the same time, ensure you're building the brand as well through possibly traditional media. And TV still has a great role to build a brand slowly, while at the same time using digital and social media to ensure you keep that flywheel spinning and hopefully getting sales results at the same time through those channels.
So you think they could be complementary?
Yeah, they've got to be complementary. There's no question. You can't, I don't think, in this day and age, have one without the other.
Okay. For smaller businesses, though, they might not have the marketing budget.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So in terms of social media and how they can best utilize it to suit their needs, how do you feel small businesses can tap into that market and market themselves on social media? Through
brand as well. I think they've got to try and do, I guess, a combination still of the two. Trying to build a brand, whatever it is, which isn't necessarily about selling or promoting the item that you're trying to sell, and try to do something for that brand that engages the consumer on an emotional level, something that they feel engaged with, or it presents an emotion of some sort, so they don't feel as though they're being sold to the entire time. So if you can kind of get that mix, that balance right about the sales and the brand building and engagement, then I think that's important.
Okay, so you seem to focus quite a bit on the brand and the story and that emotional engagement. So I guess for smaller businesses, when they utilize social media, they could also focus on these areas. But if they don't have, I guess, a filming budget or anything like that, and they can just, take pictures and post it on Instagram, what kind of tips do you have for them to promote themselves that way?
Ooh. Look, again, I'm sort of probably going to start repeating myself here a bit, Sam. I think providing content that's relevant. something that
Okay.
you want to watch, or we're all inundated with so much now, and we do it, same as I do it, same as you, on the weekend on the phone, and you will see something for that split second, and you've got the moment to engage that person or not engage them, and they will swipe or flick past immediately. So how you go about that, whether it's through humour, whether it's through sex still does sell. And when I say sex, I mean a visual image that attracts the person, whether it's through music, humour, however you tend to do it, to hook them in really, and get them to spend 5, 10, 30 seconds with your brand. It's in some ways it is harder than ever because there are so many channels now to choose from. But at the same time, you can now, as I keep saying, pinpoint and target your customer or your audience a lot more precisely now. So your spend is better spent. Your ROI should be better performing than previously.
So you should see that marketing turn more into sales because of that targeted aspect of it.
Yeah. So you're not, if you put a TV ad on air on a Sunday night roadblock 25 years ago to launch your new camera, you would hit all of Australia in theory, but your target audience might only be 5% of the people watching the Sunday night movie. So you've got in theory a 95% wastage. So from that perspective, you can now target camera lovers very accurately. Therefore, your spend, hopefully your sales and your ROI is a lot greater. Previously, I worked on a campaign about 15 years ago for Big Pond. It was known as the Rabbit's Ad or the Great Wall of China. And that was, at the time, probably the very early days in some ways of the internet. So we very much launched with TV, supported by press and radio and outdoor. And that was a mass market communication. We were trying at the time to get people from dial-up internet across to broadband. And we really played on parents' emotions around ensuring that their child was up to speed and were competitive with the other students in class. And we implied that the other students all had broadband, and if your child doesn't have broadband, they'll be left behind. It seems hard to imagine now, 15 years later, but there was a time not that long ago where not every household had broadband, and it was a catch up, and it was a land grab. It was a race for the big ISPs, the Optuses, the Telstras, the Vodas, etc. of the world, to get Australians onto broadband, and we did that via an emotional connection around this child being left behind at school. And no parent wants their child to be left behind. And we saw amazing results. It was fantastic. We had about a 4-year run on that campaign alone for Big Pond. I think, the flip side to that, more modern. I'm trying to think of a good digital campaign of recent that maybe I haven't necessarily worked on that I've been aware of. I think coming down to things like airlines and flights where you can now target a consumer who has been looking at travel sites, might be looking at Bali to try and book their holiday. The algorithms can now obviously pinpoint you've been doing that, so Qantas can serve you flight deals to Bali. And we've all seen it happen. We search something and all of a sudden we get a pop-up ad and we, a few years ago I was like, my God, how did that happen? And now we all know that it's all happening in the background. But that flight cost ad is only as good as the brand campaign that you've been watching for the last 5 years from Qantas. Because when you make that decision to buy that flight, you want the brand values that Qantas has been delivering you for the past 10, 20, 30 years around safety, Australian, great service, all of those values that you can only build long-term via a brand building campaign, then underpin that with a digital offer around the flight cost.
Okay. And I would actually like to ask you more about your personal story, I guess, in a way. How did you start in marketing and communications?
I enjoyed arts at high school. And I was quite good at it. I was okay at the other subjects, but I think I was quite focused on design and art and that side of things. and I was in Sydney on holiday. I actually grew up in Queensland. I was born in Sydney, but grew up in Queensland.
Right, and you have a bit of an English accent.
No,
not at all.
No,
okay,
not
so
at all.
it's me.
No, I think it's you.
Alright, okay.
And I was in Sydney with my parents on holiday. They were a bit unsure as to what I was going to do, and there was an ad for a dispatch boy for an advertising agency in the Sydney Morning Herald. This is before the internet, Sam. And all it had was a telephone number for the business. So we aligned the ad with the yellow pages, worked out who the advertising agency was through the phone number, and wrote a letter on a Sunday morning and slid it through under the door of the agency on the Sunday. And then on the Monday morning, the phone went crazy, but my letter was the one that they sort of opened up. When the business opened, they gave me a call. I went and interviewed, and I started as a dispatch boy when I just turned 17.
Right.
So I spent about 7 years with an agency in Sydney called Maher and Holmes, and I went through dispatch into in-house photography, and became what's referred to as a suit or account service, before going to London and Edinburgh and London for about 5 years, and then back to Australia in 99.
Okay. So was it the only marketing agency you wrote to, or you wrote to different advertising ones, and then that was the one that called you back? Because it felt like you really like going for that one.
Well, I spent 7 years with the first one in Sydney.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years in Edinburgh, then 3 years with Saatchi & Saatchi in London.
Okay.
So I've worked for about 6 or 7 agencies in the 25, 28 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually meant like when you first started, you know how you first wrote that letter?
Yeah.
That you slid under the door?
Yeah.
Was that the only marketing agency that you wrote a letter to?
Yes,
or?
yes,
Okay.
sorry, it
Yeah.
was. It was, I had a cousin who had a good career in media, in the advertising arena, and we always sort of looked at her, Kerry, and thought she had a great career. Maybe I should do something on those lines.
Okay.
And that role was advertised, and I went for it and got it, and here we are today.
Yeah, so you went for it and never looked back?
Well, yeah, I don't think I ever looked back.
Okay. Well, over the years, I mean, you've worked at different various places as well. Were there any sort of defining turning points that sort of made you realize that you like this being in this industry more, or you like the work more?
I think as an industry, it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's changed a lot, in particular in the last 5 to 8 years. When I started out, it was simpler. It was a simpler industry. You did, as we spoke about a moment ago, big brand work. You did a lot of TV and radio and outdoor, and you weren't connected 24 hours a day via your mobile and email, and you did your work and you went home, and it was the sort of heady days of advertising as well. It was exciting and it was very social. It was a young people's game, and it was great. You were all in it together. And you had a good time. And don't get me wrong, it's still a wonderful industry. It has changed, though, in the last 8 to 10 years, with the arrival of digital and social, etc. And I think it's lost a little bit of its shine. I don't think the kids are trying to pave their way into the industry as they certainly did 25 years, 30 years ago. It was an industry that everybody wanted to get into. And I'm not entirely sure it's the same anymore. Opportunity, the money, the career development isn't quite there as much anymore. Marketers' budgets are getting tighter. They don't have as much to spend. They want quicker, faster fixes, as we spoke about a moment ago. The hours are long. When you're coming up through the ranks, you can do very, very long hours. And you're as good as the last work that you did. And marketers are also under so much pressure that if the work's not working, then sometimes the first place they look at is their creative and media agency and look to maybe make a change to also protect themselves, which is completely understandable. It's a challenging industry these days.
So if the work is not working, sometimes they create their own other creative agencies, right? Did you say?
Yeah, I mean, years ago, a big marketer, a big brand would have an agency on retainer. So they would pay them a monthly fee, and often those relationships would last for years and on occasion decades. I think the loyalty has come out of it more so. So a lot of the larger brands these days will we'll put agencies up against one another and get them to pitch for a large project. And it's like gladiator style. Whoever wins that pitch will win that project or program of work, which might be 3 months or 2 years. But as an agency, there's a lot more pitching now and challenging. You're up against other agencies to win, whereas there was more loyalty, I think, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You had a relationship with a brand or a client, and that was often very long.
Do you think maybe that's a generational thing? I mean, like the younger generation, the millennials or the Gen Z, I think, would be more interested in quick fixes, instant results.
Possibly. I think that combined again with digital media, where you can see results nearly instantaneously. Click-through rates, engagement, sales, watching sales now on a daily, weekly basis. You couldn't really do that as much again 10 or 20 years ago. You had to wait to see your results over a period of time, and the levers that you could pull were less so. You only had so many channels to choose from, TV, radio, outdoor, and you would build your brand slowly over a long period. I think you're right. The Gen Z, combined with the digital and social, it's faster, a quicker fix.
Okay. And, I mean, you've seen a few trends now after your long years of experience. So does this current trend now surprise you?
No, I don't think so. I think it's all normal. It's all natural. It's I'm not sitting here going, it's the good old days. It wasn't that long ago, by the way, Sam. But no, it doesn't surprise me. I just think it's having some patience, having some loyalty, and a good marketer these days need to know everything that is available to them and ensure that they use the channels correctly. Again, around brand building versus short-term effects.
Okay. And then given all these changes now in this industry, how do you see this industry would, I guess, change going forward, say, in the next 10, 20 years?
Look, there's the arrival of AI, which has got everybody on their toes, there's no question, not just this industry, all industries. And there's no doubt it will affect this industry as well, It's starting to, I think slowly, but it's starting to. I think in some ways where we're safe is a great creative idea will always be needed. And I don't know if right now AI is able to develop and create a great creative idea. That needs human engagement. That needs a human being to understand emotion, humour, engagement, and those things that we as humans attracted to or feel. Whereas some sides of the business, obviously around digital, possibly around media buying and media planning, can start to become more and more automated. But a core, great creative idea, I think, has got a few years left.
The human element.
Yeah.
Okay, so, what is, for the audiences, media buying and media planning?
Oh, it's simply we're launching a product. We're targeting you, San, whatever this product is. It might be makeup. Which media channels are we going to use to get to you? Are we going to use social? Are we going to use TV, radio, outdoor? Are we going to use direct mail, electronic direct mail? Are we going to use content, produce long form content, and then use that through the social channels? So the media agencies have a hugely important role combined with the creative agency to deliver a campaign. And as we spoke about a moment ago, the creative idea is core and key to what is produced. The media therefore feeds it out as to where it needs to go. Can that be more automated? Possibly. We'll see.
Okay, so marketing campaign is actually the joining of a creative agency and a media agency. So they both have to work together then?
Correct.
Oh, right, okay. I always thought it was just like a creative or advertising agency that does everything.
You'll have one of each, for want of a better term. And sometimes you'll get specialised agencies as well, social agencies or digital agencies. The larger networks now should be able to do all of it, and the larger groups will own both creative and media agencies and digital agencies and social agencies and try and bring them all together. And if you're a client, You want that team to be tight, working together, joined at the hip. And ideally you would be working with sort of one core team. You wouldn't end up with 4 different teams all trying to work on the same campaign.
Trying to communicate with each other across the whole level. Okay, and you also mentioned before that when they used to pitch work, it's very like a gladiator style. How do you think back then the clients would pick the marketing agencies that they choose to work with? I mean, it's based on your pitch, but also I guess they look for certain qualities that marketing agencies have.
Yeah, look, again, it's a mixture of a lot of things. There's obviously often the human connection. You know, the person that you're possibly about to do business with, do you like them? You know, that's deep in all of us. Is the work that they've presented to you on brief, on strategy? Is it good? You know, are they cost competitive, or are they, you know, a lot higher? And cost it's not always the cheapest, but it's a combination of all of those elements. And how they understand your brand and how they've, you know, understood the brief that they've received, responded to it, and what's their reputation like. You know, if you're going to point any kind of business to work with, whether it be a builder to build your house or an advertising agency, often you might call around and check up on them prior, ensure that, you know, the work they've done or the relationships they've had or their reputation is a good one. Have marketers lost their reputation? No, I don't think so. No, I think that the good ones still produce great work. Again, the next generation is coming up and through, and that's very normal. Are they as well trained as possibly a few years ago? Maybe not. And again, that comes down to what we spoke about a moment ago. The speed to market, the digital channels, the choice, the expectations from CEOs around, you know, sales results now. So I think there's a multitude of factors that play into modern marketing, and it's simply different. You know, it's not better or worse. It's different times. There's a million acronyms, CPAs, CPTs. You know, it's a lot to take on. And I think if you're hungry for it and you're determined to do it, then, you know, the world is your oyster. You can still do it. It's a big old world out there with a lot of opportunity.